Hey guys, how you doing? Thanks for joining. I was really rushed today. I've had a whole lot of stuff going on, and that's why I haven't even had a chance to comb my hair. And I got this little, can you see it? It's like poking out over here on the side. My head's a little uneven, so if you can ignore that. I also had a visit to the dermatologist, which is why I look like I got some BBs shot into my face. Lovely little thing that happens. Anyway, we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about the podcast that I did that I literally just put it on the website 5 minutes ago. I realized it wasn't up on the website yet. So if you want to check it out, this is the interview with Ben Sullins from Teslanomics. I don't know how familiar you might be with his channel. Maybe not at all. If you're into Tesla and if you like electric cars and that kind of thing, or even if you're just like a data geek, so is Ben, and it's a good channel to check out. Ben is, I never really, actually it was really funny. I had been following his channel for a while now, and I was putting together a list of people that I wanted to interview for podcasts and stuff like that. And his was right at the top of the list. I was like, he just seemed like a good guy to talk to, and God knows all my Tesla and Elon Musk videos usually do pretty well. So I thought it'd be a good tie-in. Anyway, I was literally a day or two away from emailing him, and he sends a comment on one of my videos and is like, hey, I'd love to collaborate with you sometime. And I was like, he knows I exist. It was so weird, and the universe kind of came together and that kind of thing, if you believe in that kind of thing. But it was a great conversation. This was the first podcast I had to really kind of edit down because there was just so much that we talked about, and it went on and on. Clearly, I'm going to have to do this with him again sometime. But the timing is perfect. It's great. I almost cussed just then. But the timing is fantastic because, as I talked about in my Monday video, they're doing this launch event Friday evening for the it's not the launch of the Model 3, but they're handing over the first Model 3s to the reservation holders. Kind of a big deal for Tesla. And so I talked to Ben, and I've got some clips I'm going to share with you, kind of like I did last week with Isaac, and we can kind of go through them. And one of them, as I have teased in the title, is, I think, a big reveal that has since been confirmed since we recorded this, and we'll talk about it when we get there. But I got to hold off. I'm going to show this other stuff first. But first of all, so Ben talks about his background as a science data geek. He's a data analyst, and how that kind of led him to becoming involved in Tesla and that kind of thing. But that kind of spurred a really interesting conversation about where we are today in the media when it comes to data, and when it comes to how that data is presented, and the confirmation bias that goes along with it when different media sources provide that data and the spin that they put on it. So he talks about that a little bit. I'm going to jump right into it. Here we go.
Whether you watch CNN or Fox News, they have their agendas and they have their audience, and they go look for data as a validator to support their view, whatever it may be, which is human. It's a very human way of going about it, right? But let me give you an example of where this plays out. And you mentioned the election, so I'll just have one thing to talk about that, and that was the unemployment rate. So when the Bureau of Labor Statistics puts out the jobs report and we look at the unemployment rate, we're looking at the overall unemployment rate for a nation of 300 something million people. So when you sum up a nation this big into a single number, you lose a lot of the detail and a lot of the context.
Right.
And this is where data gets used very poorly, right? I wish at some elementary school level you had a way in math class not just to learn algebra and how to actually use math, but how to look at numbers and understand that there's more nuance there than perhaps what the headline shows. That's why I feel data is so important, because it is one of the things that represents the truth. It's how we interpret it that where the lies come in.
I gotta turn my microphone back on. I love what he had to say there about how we need to kind of learn and to be more savvy about data, something that probably should be taught in schools when kids are young. And actually from there, I went on to talk about how with my background working in the media and newspaper and stuff like that, I feel like media criticism, being able to look at what the media is giving you with a critical eye, is something that also should be taught in schools. So we agreed on that, and it was a really interesting conversation. As you saw, it was very abridged. I cut that down quite a bit, but he also went on to talk about some things that happened in the last election. It doesn't get too political, but just talks about how the different sides used the same data points to make their own arguments, and both of them were wrong because they were spinning it in the way that they wanted people to know about it. So on to some more fun stuff. He was talking a little bit about, again, why he got into Tesla, what he liked so much about Tesla, him being a technology guy and a gadget guy. That's kind of what spurred him to enjoying Teslas more than others. And he talks about that a bit here. And I think he's got some pretty high standards for what he wants to see in cars, as you'll see in just a second. Here we go.
And so I've been in love with technology for a long time. I've been, tied my career and a big part of my life to it. So when Tesla really started making a push in that area, I was obviously gravitated towards them. And I have this like extremely high bar for what I want technology to do. And hardly any company even comes close. Tesla's probably the one that has come closest to where I get in or I use their products and I go, okay, this is cool. Like I'm impressed, or and I think they have a long way to go too.
Sure.
I think it's still, I still am, I guess, I don't want to say disappointed, but I see a infinite road ahead of advancements they could make, even with the current hardware that they have today. So for example, I can ask Alexa over here to turn on and off my lights, right?
Yeah.
I can ask it to turn the AC on. I can voice activate and do all of these things, right? I can even have it order me food and stuff like that. Well, Teslas have voice commands built in, but they're so limited. So I can tell it like, hey, call so-and-so, or navigate me here, right? Whatever, basic stuff, or play this song. I want to get in and say, turn the AC on. I want to be able to get in and say, adjust my mirrors. Or make the overhead all glass roof more tinted right now, or make it less tinted. I want to be able to voice command my car with everything I can do from touching a button, or their kind of digital interface by voice.
Sounds like you watched a lot of Knight Rider as a kid. We then went on to talk about how cool it would be if you could hack a Tesla to have the little 3 bars and talk back to you like Kit did in Knight Rider. Probably a simple thing to do, actually. But so some interesting stuff that he wants there. I think when maybe you have access to a Tesla and you're just kind of get used to the technology, you start to demand more or want more. By the way, I may be having some streaming issues. If there's some glitches, if it slows down, if I'm having some stuff, I apologize. I don't know what the deal is, but I just saw that it was giving some weird stuff. Anyway, so another thing that he talked about, quite a bit actually, but we talked about myth busting, busting some myths that people have about Teslas, and the one that I thought was the most interesting because it was one of the big hangups that I had in the beginning about Teslas, which was the battery pack. My understanding was that after about 8 years or so, it has to be replaced, and that's going to be a good $20, maybe more, $1,000 to get that replaced, and that seems like a pretty ridiculous thing to expect to pay for in the long run. But he busts that myth here, because now that the Teslas have been around a little while, the Model S came out, I believe, in 2012, so we've got a good 5 years on it, and 5 years of testing and data on the batteries. We're starting to get a better picture of that, and he talks about it here. There you go.
But people have this notion that because my cell phone battery only lasts 2 years before it's totally fried, and my laptop battery is the same way, that my car is going to be the same. But the deal is, we have data on this now showing that a Tesla car battery should last up to 310,000 miles before you really need to replace it.
Yeah.
So other parts of the car are going to go out well before then. As well, you're probably not going to have the car that long. But yeah, the data we have, and there's literally thousands and thousands of observations, we would say, right, of people that do a full cycle, meaning they run it down to 0 and then up to 100, because that's how you'll know once you run it up to 100 from 0, you'll know exactly how much capacity you have left.
Right. Yeah.
And so they're measuring this. These guys have been doing this on this Google sheet for a few years now, and that data is, suggesting that Tesla batteries are going to last basically forever, longer than you'll have the car, for sure.
All right, I'm getting some notes from some of you guys that it is lagging on your end. I don't know, guys. I'm sorry. I don't know why it's doing that. I've got fast enough internet here, but anyway. So I'm going to keep moving because I'm getting a lot of people who are asking if I've given away the big surprise yet. I haven't. I am holding off just a little bit. I'm teasing, but we'll get there. I think some of you may have already guessed it, actually. But just real quick, I'm going to share one more clip, and then we'll talk about the big surprise. So one of the big things that I always hear is you'll be seeing in this clip about self-driving cars. We started talking about autonomous driving, self-driving cars, how that could be safer, and how that would transform our transportation grid and all that kind of stuff. And the big hang-up that a lot of people have is the issue of hacking. What happens if some malicious person wants to hack the entire system? Well, he speaks to that right here. I'll just jump right into it.
But people have this notion.
Well, that whole hacking thing is what I always hear whenever I talk about self-driving cars. People immediately like, oh, somebody could hack the entire network and drive everybody off a cliff and all that kind of stuff. And I mean, we laugh, and I laugh too, but I mean, that's a real concern for a lot of people. And if we want to reach a point where that becomes more adopted by society at large, there's got to be some kind of response to that, or some kind of...
You need a kill switch in the car, right? You need a big stop button or something like that.
Yeah.
You need a hardware override from within the car. People have an extreme false sense of security about what they currently have, and how actual computers control so many aspects of their lives today. Your electricity, your water, all these things are controlled by machines which have software running them. Even your cars, a lot of cars can be overtaken and hacked today. So yeah, it's a real fear, I would say. Driving everyone off a cliff, I think, is a bit extreme. I'm a surfer. I go surf, at least once a week. And people always ask me, oh my God, aren't you afraid of sharks? And sure, yeah. If I saw a shark, I'd be scared. That's a reasonable fear. But there's something like 5 people tops per year that get killed by sharks in the world. Far more people die every single day just from driving to work. So, you should be more afraid of driving to work than you should be being eaten by a shark.
Okay. Okay. So I'm okay. We're there. I'm ready for the big surprise. I thought that was an interesting point that he made there about how reliant we all are on computers already, and how that risk is already there, but we don't really paying attention to it because we're used to it. We'll get the same way with cars. Okay, so the big reveal of the surprise that may be in store for tomorrow. Thank you for sticking around. Sorry I had to tease, but so I'm just going to jump right into it. The question that I asked him was what expectations he might have had for the event this Friday, which he is going to be going to, which is really cool. So here's what he had to say. Hold on to your butts.
I'm expecting to hear and learn a lot more about the cars. And I think we're going to see some insane breakthroughs in the Model 3 that haven't been released yet and haven't been announced.
Any ideas of what those would be, or
something related to the battery? Something related to the battery. The max battery will be a 75 kilowatt hour battery, which is the lowest on the Model S. On a Model S, that gets about 240 miles. On the Model 3, we've seen photos evidence that that same 75 kilowatt hour battery will get over 300 miles. Now, the Model 3 is a smaller car. It's more aerodynamic, all those kind of things. But I don't think that's enough, because remember, the battery is the heaviest part of the car. They must have some major innovation there Otherwise, they couldn't have got the car over 300 miles just simply by having a slightly smaller a car with a little bit better aerodynamics, or maybe even significantly better. I think there has to be something in the battery that is going to be kind of groundbreaking. If that's true, if I'm right about this with the Model 3, and they've somehow doubled or come close to doubling the energy density in the cell, meaning they can have 50% less battery, meaning lighter, and still get the same amount of energy out of it, then we may see a 500 plus mile range on a Model S or X in the future.
All right. Did that thing lag as badly as I think it did? That would totally be my luck that I've teased this whole thing, and then when I play that clip, you guys can't see half of it because of some weird internet thing that's going on right now, and I really apologize for that. Let me know in the live chat if you want me to replay that and see if it'll play a little better. I will. That really sucks. But for those who, if you did hear it, actually, you know what? I'm just gonna hang on 1 second. I'm hearing a yep. Yeah, I missed a lot of that. It was horrible. Repeat. Here we go. All right, let me try it again. Sorry, guys.
I'm expecting to hear and learn a lot more about the cars. And I think we're going to see some insane breakthroughs in the Model 3 that haven't been released yet and haven't been announced.
Any ideas of what those would be, or
something related
thoughts?
To the battery? Something
Okay.
related to the battery. The max battery will be a 75 kilowatt hour battery, which is the lowest on the Model S. On a Model S, that gets about 240 miles. On the Model 3, we've seen photos providing evidence that that same 75 kilowatt hour battery will get over 300 miles. Now, the Model 3 is a smaller car. It's aerodynamic, all those kind of things. But I don't think that's enough, because remember, the battery is the heaviest part of the car. They must have some major innovation there. Otherwise, they couldn't have got the car over 300 miles just simply by having a slightly smaller a car with a little bit better aerodynamics, or maybe even significantly better. I think there has to be something in the battery that is going to be kind of groundbreaking. If that's true, if I'm right about this with the Model 3, and they've somehow doubled or come close to doubling the energy density in the cell, meaning they can have 50% less battery, meaning lighter, and still get the same amount of energy out of it, then we may see a 500 plus mile range on a Model S or X in the future.
Okay, that seemed to work better that time. So that is the big news, and the really exciting thing is if you go to Ben's channel, which is linked in the description down below, after we recorded this, he did a live stream where he got some confirmation from somebody close to Tesla that he was right about this, that they've actually been able to get a higher energy density battery at the core level, at the little, because all the Teslas are made up of like 70,000 little, not AA size, but little lithium-ion batteries. I shouldn't talk about batteries, I've learned. I don't know enough about it to not piss a whole bunch of people off. But the point is, they seem to have come up with a different battery that actually holds more energy and weighs less. And the point is, if they were able to expand that out into their Model S and X line, then you would wind up having electric cars that actually drive further than a gas car. And that would be a huge turning point, in my opinion, because the price is still an issue, clearly. I'm not going to discount that, but that would make a huge difference in terms of what electric cars are capable of and how they can compete on the mass market with gas cars. So really interesting stuff to me. Now, again, this is all uncorroborated. It's all grain of salt right now. It's not a thing until it's a thing, but that to me just makes it that much more interesting and much more eager to check out the event on Friday to see if they announce that kind of thing. And I really am surprised I didn't see the picture, the spy picture that was taken of the car that got a 315 miles on a charge, because I Google like sends me stuff on Tesla like every other day, every other hour, constantly. I don't know how I missed it, but anyway, I found that really interesting. I just have one more clip I'm going to share with you where he talks about what it's like being a Tesla owner and some of the bad habits you can get into. And when we come back from that, I'll take a few minutes, not too long, but I'll answer a few questions. So if you have some questions, tee them up, and I'll respond to them a few, not too many, but and then we'll wrap this up. So here's Ben talking about some bad habits you get into driving a Tesla.
I'm expecting. So I'm doing a video on this. There are all these like bad habits, I guess, that you develop after owning a Tesla for a long time. And one of them is you get in other cars and you just expect it to be on. Like my wife's car, it happens all the time. I get in and I'm like, why can't I go? Like, what's wrong with this thing? I'm like, she's like, you have to turn it on. I'm like, oh shit, okay. I don't even, like, how do I? Oh, okay, there's a button. Okay, geez. And then the other one, exact same thing. When you park your Tesla, you just hit park and then you get out and leave. There's no locking. There's no turning it off. You just get out and go. It's done. It figures the rest out for you. And so I will constantly get out of my wife's car and just leave it running and walk away. And she's like, hey, you have to turn the car off. I'm like, oh shit. Okay. And hers has hers has a key fob button thing too. So it'll start beeping loudly as you walk away. I'm like, oh, okay, dummy. So it's funny, all these bad habits you develop as a Tesla.
Dummy.
Yes. I think that's what it says. Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, I just thought that was funny, the little things, the little bad habits you can get into when you're driving a Tesla. So some people in the chat over here are talking about the 2170 battery. I think that is what they're talking about here. I probably should have watched Ben's video again before I did this, because he did talk about the specific type of battery. And I think that was it. That sounds about right. Anyway, exciting stuff. I think it's really cool. I'm really interested to see what comes out of this thing on Friday. And my dog is downstairs barking at God knows what. But anyway, if you guys have any questions, I will answer them just really quickly. 2 or 3 at the most is probably all I have time for. I want to apologize again for the streaming issues. I don't know. I don't know why it's doing that. But you guys seem to be having it. You seem to have it down in the chat here with what's going on here. So let me just take a sip here. Dog barking. About the lithium battery part, what does the limited amount of lithium we have mean for the future? My understanding is that the reserves of lithium are not all that limited. It's actually a very abundant mineral. I could be wrong about that, but that was my understanding. That was another one of the myths that Ben talked about actually in the podcast, was that people think that we're going to run out of lithium soon, and that doesn't seem to be the case. Buy Tesla stock now. I don't know if you can afford $500 for a piece of stock. It kind of went way up, and then it started to kind of taper off again just as the event was coming up. People get a little bit nervous about what could be coming out of it, because it could do really well. It might fall on its face. We don't know. What's my next video going to be about? I'm working on right now, I'm calling it the Sustainable Energy Compendium. There's been some discussion on the channel about renewable energy and stuff like that, but I want to take a very, as much as I'm capable of doing, objective look at the different types of sustainable energies, wind, solar, geothermal, biomass, all that kind of stuff, and really dig into the pros and cons of each. And it might wind up being one video. It might wind up being a few. The deeper I go into it, the longer it gets, and I don't want to wind up with a big 20-minute long video. Let's see, what else do we have? There is a hemp-based commercial energy storage supercapacitor on the market. It can be used for solar and REN at residential level. Hemp can do everything, can it? I know in the early days of cars, there was actually a hemp-based car. Like the side panels were made out of this super strong hemp that was really lightweight and as strong as steel, which sounds kind of crazy. But let's see. The stock is up 1.25% today. We'll see. I wish I'd bought it back in the day, man. I remember first hearing about the Tesla Roadster, which, by the way, I did talk about briefly in the video on Monday, and some people pointed out that Elon actually had very little to do with that model. That's a fair point. It was actually based on the Lotus platform, so it wasn't really even a Tesla car. It was just kind of like a mod. The Model S was technically their first real car. Hi, Joe Scott. Is that a photo of Thomas Edison in black and white on your shelves? It looks like Edison in the middle. No! I could tell a quick story about this. Hang on. This is not Edison. This is Charlie Chaplin and Albert Einstein. This was a meeting. I think it was outside of a play one time. And the funny story about this is that my aunt, when I was a kid, I used to dress up like Charlie Chaplin and do this little show because I was a little show person, I guess, whatever you want to call me. But anyway, I used to do this Charlie Chaplin impression when I was a kid. And my aunt got me this photo because my birthday actually is the same day as Albert Einstein's. And it wasn't this photo. It was a different photo and it had a little story about how they met on the side. And I always loved that photo. And at one point, I went back to my dad's house and I saw that photo and I was thinking about what I'm doing now. This was very recently. What I'm doing now with the channel, which is sort of comedy and humor and entertainment with science. And it was kind of one of these things like, wow, that's kind of crazy. When I was a kid, I had this picture of Einstein and Chaplin together, and here that seems to be like the perfect encapsulation of my channel. So that's why I put it back there. Of course, it's out of focus most of the time, and people don't know what it is, so it doesn't really pay off like I wanted, but I like having it back there. It kind of reminds me of what I'm doing here. So glad you asked. Yes, tell us a story. I just did. How many stories you need? I think that was beforehand. That was a play where Chaplin and Einstein got into a fist fight at the intermission. Who would win a fight, Chaplin or Einstein? I think Chaplin was he's pretty squirrely. He could have gotten out of everything, but Einstein, controlled gravity in the universe. So, I would love to see that in comic book form. You guys start working on that. What's the price for the Model 3? They say that the base price is $35,000, but I'm guessing with any decent trim levels and a larger battery pack, it's going to get up closer to $50,000. But they haven't really put out the configurator yet, so you can't really. It's still a little fuzzy. Maybe they'll be revealing that on Friday too. We'll see. A video about energy storage would be cool. Like you, LOL. Thanks, Hugo. The energy storage might come into play on the sustainable energy compendium video thing that I'm working on. That's kind of tied into solar quite a bit. It's because solar and wind are intermittent. You need something to store the energy, or else you just wind up having lots of energy during the day and none at night, or lots of energy when it's windy and none when it's not. So what is the huge surprise? You must have just joined. You're just gonna have to rewatch this. Possibly a larger range on the car than people are expecting. That's kind of the big surprise. Let's see, what else? What do you think about communism or socialism? Well, those are two different things. I don't think that we live in an entirely capitalist or entirely socialist country. I think it's a little bit of both, and I think it should be a little bit of both. Either one of them gone unchecked go into really bad places. So, tell you what. This has gone for about 30 minutes. That's about the length that these should probably be kept under. And I've got the reveal out there. We'll see about it. I might do like a little surprise live stream on Friday night when they do this launch. If I can find a place where it's streaming. But keep an eye out for this Friday. I think it's going to be interesting. I'll be watching. But I want to thank you guys for joining. Again, apologies for any streaming issues. I don't know what caused that. Just doing my best here. Thanks for all the people in the live chat for hanging out, and I saw some really cool discussions going on there, and about the batteries and stuff like that. That's one thing I really love about the community and the people that follow this channel. There's not a lot of assholes out there. There's not a lot of jerks. There's just a lot of people that have cool, similar interests and different expertises in different areas that share them. I love that. I love when I see those in the comments, and I appreciate you guys for doing that. So with that, I'm going to check out. Love you guys. Thank you so much for joining. And I should be back next Monday. The podcast is live, finally, on the website, answerswithjoe.com/podcast. Again, we talked about a lot of stuff, and it went into a lot of different cool territories. I really enjoyed talking to Ben, and we're going to have to do it again sometime. So anyway, thanks again, you guys. Love you guys. Take care.